Welcome back to Living with a Classic. I'm out again here with my 1991 Daimler XJ40, and today we're going to do some things in the engine bay. Hopefully get this thing to run a little bit smoother. It is quite smooth. It's gotten better with every single thing I have fixed so far. However, today we're going to replace this fuel pressure regulator, see if that makes it even smoother, and also see if it starts faster when it's cold. I tried yesterday, that was in the previous video that you saw, to crank this thing over cold, and it took quite a while for it to crank over. And then I depressurized the fuel system by pulling out the relay for the fuel pump. It stops. There should be no pressure in the fuel system right now, so we can open up, change that relay, see if that makes a difference. If not, well, we have some other things we can have a look at. The fuel pressure regulator sits right over here next to the fuel rail, and there's a vacuum line to it, and you have just two screw-in fittings here, and then there is a nut here that holds it in place. So we'll get all that off. I have a rag here as well in case I lose a little bit of fuel, but I have depressurized it, like I said, by pulling the relay here for the fuel pump, and I'll let the engine basically die by running out of fuel. I'll start by disconnecting the vacuum line here, if I can get that off with my fingers. Maybe not. There we go. Put a rag here just to minimize the amount of fuel spilled. And of course, the engine is cold and I have disconnected the battery. There we go. That cracked off pretty easily. That one came off pretty easily as well. I have mentioned before, but I am replacing all the fuel lines. I'll just do that sometime before the summer, I think. But I'm going to replace this now to see if that makes any difference. And be careful not to drop the washer. There that is, and there we go. The old one is out. Put this aside and we'll grab a new one. Here is the new one. Basically it looks the same, just doesn't have a Lucas sticker on it. So the way a fuel pressure regulator works on these older fuel injection systems is it regulates the flow of fuel that returns to the fuel tank. So, you know, you have a really high pressure coming in, and then this regulator opens at a set pressure. I don't remember off heart exactly what it is on the XJ40, but for instance on the old XJ12 with the early fuel injection system, it's like 29 psi, something like that, around 3 bar. And once it gets above that, fuel gets returned to the tank. Alright, I mean, it did spill a bit of fuel, but it is evaporating over here. I had a real struggle getting this to thread on here, so I just simply removed this whole bracket here. It was just two little 8mm bolts, but now I got this to screw on. I'll put that back into place, just thread in those bolts again, and then I can move on to the last fuel line, and when both are on, I can tighten it down. The washer and nut again. Now I can do the final tightening of this fuel line there. And get this one on. The loose vacuum line you're seeing here is supposed to go to the cruise control, which is not working on this car at the moment. So that's why it's plugged by a previous owner. I tried to plug it in once, and well, it definitely wasn't working. It was just could not keep a constant speed. It was actually quite scary. The car just started accelerating really quickly out of nowhere. Hey, the last fuel line should be able to thread on now. There we go. And I can do a final tightening of that nut in there. And last but not least, the vacuum line. You see that? It cranked for quite a while. Everything should be ready to test now. I've reconnected the battery. So I'm just going to prime the fuel system a couple times just to see if we have any leaks or not. I'll prime it about 5 times. The other sound that you're hearing there, that is the pump for the brakes. Because these are not servo operated brakes by vacuum, they have a separate pump. Let's see. No, seems to be no leaks at all. All right, but let's do the same thing then as yesterday and see if it does fire up any quicker today. Okay, doesn't want to. Oh, I'm being really silly. I completely forgot about the fuel pressure relay. So we'll put that in place and we'll do all of this again. Okay, that is all connected. Now let's prime the fuel system and see if we have any leaks. Okay, I heard the pump now. 1, 2, 3. I hear some bubbles up here. 4, 5. Let's check for leaks. Yeah. It's all very dry and good. Don't smell any gas as well. All right, how about this time? Let's see if it fires up, and hopefully it is quicker than with the old one. All right, it is up and running. We have no leaks at all. Seems to be a little bit smoother at least. It's hard to tell, but let's turn it off and see how it fires up again. Yeah, it does that little weird thing sometimes. Okay, there we go, it's picking up. Let's try that one more time. Turn the lights on here so you can see a little bit more. Okay, that fired up really nicely. I was still hearing a little bit of air come out of there before, which is weird. It should be out of there by now, but let's try one more time. Just sort of rev it out a little bit. That is actually really nice and smooth now, but let's try again. I mean, it is better, but if that is the final sort of answer to the mystery, I'm not completely sure. But I'm gonna let it run now for a bit and see what happens. The one thing I have noticed is it's definitely more responsive than before. It does feel like it is running better. Like, definitely does rev more freely or easily than before. I mean, it wasn't really an issue before, but it does feel like it's smoother, and now that it's run for a little bit, it is very smooth. But I think we're gonna have a look at a couple sensors on the engine, just check out, coolant temperature sensors and those, just to make sure that they're fine. I did check them about a year ago and they were all within spec, but let's just check a few of them again. I've unplugged the coolant temperature sensor here. The big plug towards you, the one that I'm probing right now, is the one for the ECU, and the small one wire plug over there is for the gauge on the dash. I've measured with one of those laser thermometers. It's about 25 degrees or so in the coolant at the moment. And let's see if I can get a connection again. And that gives, let me see. It's hard to see this one-handed. Yeah, you see it's about 1,900, close to 2,000 ohm. And that's correct. At around room temperature, it should be between 1,500 and 3,000 ohms. So that is fine. The only thing I sort of noticed is that the clip is missing on here, so it doesn't lock into place. I did, however, try that if I pull that while the engine is running, it will stay running, but I will get check engine light and fuel fail. I believe 13 or 14, which basically just means no signal from the coolant temperature sensor. But I thought I'd let it warm up now, and we'll see what that sensor says when everything is warmed up. But I think it's going to be fine, since it was fine when I checked over the car about a year ago, but let's check again. While it's warming up here, I'm just going to check one more time for vacuum leaks. I just have some ether here, some starting fluid, and I'll check around all the common areas, such as the bellows down here. Not hearing any difference. No difference. No difference. Maybe the injector seals. Nope. Intake manifold. Nope. Not hearing any difference at all. I guess we could check around here as well. Nope, definitely no vacuum leaks at all. So, or at least none in here. And I do have everything in the car turned off, so none of the climate control, anything of that is on. I will continue warm up, and when it's completely warmed up, we'll check what the resistance is there. Make sure that the coolant temperature sensor is doing what it should. It's not completely fully warmed up, but we're getting about 60 degrees or so. Should still get a pretty decent reading on here. When it's fully warmed up, you should see between 350 and 250 or something like that. So 400 ohms. That seems reasonable for being almost warmed up. So I think that thing is working as it should. Connection, it's not being locked on there, so I'll do something about that. But if it falls off, I get check engine light right away and a code I haven't seen before, so that has not been the issue. At least it seems to be running pretty nicely. Of course, it would need a really long drive just to go out and clear itself, and I think it will run absolutely brilliant then. But let's just see how it cranks over when it's partially warm. And that is a good fast start, I'd say. And that is actually faster than it usually does start. And nice and smooth. We have the idle is, what's that, like 700 RPMs. And the throttle response is really good. And it went to, about 700 right there. Seems to be running well. I think I'm gonna let it sit overnight, completely cool down, and we'll see how it starts tomorrow. It's the next morning, and it's actually been a pretty cold night, so it will be a good test for a cold start. I haven't done anything, I haven't primed anything. I'm just gonna turn the key once, let it prime, and let's see how it fires up. Okay. wasn't instantaneous, but it really wasn't too bad, and it has a very stable idle. Usually was quite a bit lower than this and a bit lumpy when it was cold. So I actually think it's a lot better than before. That is definitely very smooth. And I mean, it's ice cold, but that is very smooth. It never has such a good throttle response before. It might not be everything. There may be some other things. Maybe I still need to drive it a little bit more. However, I definitely think changing out that fuel pressure regulator wasn't a bad idea. The old one was not completely failed, but I somehow feel like it was intermittent, which of course I couldn't tell 100% without putting a pressure gauge on this on the fuel system. However, it's not that easy to put one on here. You'll have to make up a fitting to go in between here. I'm going to make one up so I have one. But I mean, probably close to the same amount I would have to spend to get that fitting was what a new pressure regulator was. So might as well replace it. And yeah, it's running very nicely now. Now with it running nicely, you might be wondering what some of the next projects will be on the XJ40, because there are a lot of things left to do on it. And the reason we're not going for a drive right now is because it's still off the road, because I'm waiting on the new tires. I've ordered a set of new tires that will go on the wheels that are just temporarily on the XJ12. They're the 16-inch latest wheels that came with the XJ40. So I'm going to polish those up a bit. Got new tires. They should be here. I'm not sure, I ordered them yesterday, so they should be here pretty soon. And when that is done, I can go out and drive this thing again. I've also ordered another thing, which will be a huge improvement. Like most cars of this era, it has a sagging headliner. I've ordered a new one. So as soon as that shows up, we'll be replacing that as well. That will be a huge difference to how the car feels inside. Because right now, if you drive at any speed with the sunroof open, you will just get a bunch of foam everywhere in the car. I still have, or took some interior apart again to try out the fan. And I figured out that it is the whole resistor pack in there that is wrong. So I've taken one of those apart and I've ordered all the components to go inside it. So they should also be here in a couple days or a week or so. And I can replace that, get all the fan speeds going. So that's going to be great. When that is working, I think we'll tackle other things in here. I still got to do all the coolant hoses. There are no leaks or anywhere, but they are probably original. I have all of them, so I'm going to do that. When that is being done, the top hose will be out of the way. I'll have a lot of room to replace, or basically remove, the pump for the self-leveling rear suspension. Remove that, block that off, so that will be done. No more leaks. And I think once that is done, the next thing in the engine bay will be to sort out the AC, see what really the issue is, why it's not working. Maybe there's a leak somewhere, just get it tested, see what's going on, replace any parts that need to be replaced. And really, when that is done, it's running well, I starting to have a look at some of the cosmetic things on this car. It does have a rust in some areas, nothing structural, but it's the bottom of the wing here on both sides, a little bit on the bonnet as well, and of course the rear wheel arches. I mean, it's just starting to bubble a tiny bit there. So I'm going to check with a couple places what that would cost to get fixed. And it's not too bad, because I mean, not that much rust to fix. I mean, the wings is easier just to get another set of front wings that are good for the car. Here, maybe there'll have to be a tiny bit of welding, or maybe not. We'll have to see when that gets taken off. And then there's really not that much need to be painted. It's just touch up this area and paint two front wings, so it shouldn't be that bad. Because once that is done, this thing will look absolutely fantastic, because the front wings really do let it down. The rear here, you can't really see too much, but the front wings at least in my opinion, they stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, they really do stick out because of the rust. You can see they're actually sticking out the bottom there. So I think fixing those up will make it look a lot nicer. And then this will be a very, very presentable Daimler XJ40. Anyways, that's it for this video. It's running better now, I feel. It's really hard to tell without going on extended drives, but it is smoother than before. It does crank over better, and I do think it is running better. As soon as I get the new tires on here, I will start using this thing daily again, and then you'll get to follow along and we'll see if this actually fixed the issues or if there is another issue that I haven't found yet. But you know, a lot of things are new on it, and I think that is not a bad thing. To replace the fuel pressure regulator with it being 30 years old, it's never a bad thing to replace that. Anyways, I hope you guys are excited about some of the projects coming up on this car. They won't all be immediate, you know, due to a lot of them being kind of expensive projects, but because I have thought of for a little while if I was going to get rid of this car or not. Around the winter, I was thinking maybe I should just fix a couple of things and sell it. But I realized I really do like it. It's in my favorite color combination and everything. And it is a very nice car. I just gotta have it not break down on me. So I think I will fix all the cosmetic things as well. I won't do it immediately, but we'll check how much it's gonna cost and when I will be able to do it and have this be a very, very nice old car. Anyways, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you like this sort of content, you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Anyways, until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.